Here we go again. The Big Ten is tossing around a CFP format that misses the mark.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a bonus episode of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, that's your sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And during this Buckeye Blitz, we will discuss if this idea of a new CFP format benefits Ohio State. But first, once again, for at least the second time this offseason, the Big Ten is tossing around a CFP format that doesn't make any sense. During Big Ten Media Days, Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti was promoting and pushing a 16-team format where the Big Ten would get 4 automatic qualifiers, as well as the SEC getting that many automatic qualifiers into the playoff. And I understand where he was going with that piece, but I couldn't get behind it. And then to say, oh, there's a 24 or 28 team format that we're trying to toss around right now was just an idea. But of course, we wanted to leak it to see what people thought about this new idea that we have in this proposed format. There would be auto bids for the Big Ten and the SEC. Both conferences would get 7 automatic bids. The ACC and the Big 12 would get 5 apiece. There would also be 2 bids for leagues outside of the Power 4, as well as 2 at-large teams. And in that piece, 7 for the Big Ten and the SEC, 5 for the other 2 power conferences, you may say, Jay, okay, you can get behind that, and those AQs make sense. Here's my issue. You don't need a playoff with 24 or 28 teams in college football. Now, the counter argument to that is, well, there are over 130 plus FBS teams in the sport, so 24 or 28 teams would be a really realistic number for that amount of teams to play in a playoff. And on the surface, that makes sense. Here is the issue. If you separate the Power 4 plus Notre Dame from the group of 5 or group of 6 conferences, you will see a big gap between those 2 ranges. The power conferences, yes, there are teams like Ohio State and Clemson and Notre Dame and Texas, Oklahoma, all those schools that are at the top. They have the upper echelon, Alabama, Georgia in that as well, and they have the cream of the crop of talent. Where you look at some of the bottom feeders in the power conferences, their talent is just a little bit different. You look at the group of 6 conferences, their talent's different too. And more often than not, they can't compete with those in the power conferences. So this may be a sign that the power conferences should just break off from the other conferences because they're not playing the same game. Now, maybe it's play on words because they are playing football, and the football is the same size, the rules are the same, the field is the same size. And so, yes, in reality, they are playing the same game, but monetarily with the facilities, with the way they recruit, the high, lofty standards at some of these schools, they're not playing the same game. I understand the 24, the 28. I can't get behind the AQs, the automatic qualifiers. One thing I forgot to mention is that in this proposed format, there would be 20 games. There would be a lot of games played on campus, which I am a big, big fan of. 100%. I think last year with the success that you saw from games being played on campus a year ago in the first portion of the 12-team playoff, I think that would be great. Here's a note that I was missing earlier. The 28-team format will put 20 playoff games on campus, which is huge. I think there should be more than 20 games. I think that in this new format or any format, the only game that should be played at a neutral site should be the national championship. That's just my opinion, but that's not only my opinion. There are a lot of people around college football that believe the same thing. Make that one game so exclusive and so big, it's a national championship game. I would be glad if that was played at Pasadena every year. If you want to put that somewhere else, so be it. Shop it around, make your money, do all those great things. I can't get behind the 2018 format. I cannot. If you want to break off and say 69 are with the upper echelon and they're a super league, you want to call it, I could get on board with that. And allow the other conferences to do their own thing. I'd be cool with that too. But while there are 130 plus teams at the FBS level, not all of them have a shot to win the national championship. You can also say 15 on a high end in any given year before the season even starts have a legit shot to win the natty. Here's a problem. In November, there's only probably 4 or 5 that could have a legit shot to win it. Adding more teams in it, isn't that something that goes against the player safety that so many people were saying needs to be discussed when you expand the playoff and you're playing 16 or 17? Oh, wait. It's in about player safety. The dollars and cents make a whole lot more sense to a lot of people than to think about these athletes playing very competitive games and adding more of those types of games to their plates. I understand where the Big Ten is coming from, but y'all, I can't get behind it. But does this new proposed format or just an idea benefit Ohio State? I'll answer that question next. This episode is brought to you by Drip Drop. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where Drip Drop comes in. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses a perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids, quickly delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com. Promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. This episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day, and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank y'all for tapping into this bonus episode of Locked On Buckeyes and making this show a part of your day. If you have not already tapped into the daily pod, go back and check it out. We talked about Sonny Styles earning the Blanco jersey, the 4 Buckeyes that are captains this year, as well as 2 more players that lost their black stripes. You definitely want to check out that show. You definitely want to check out this new playoff format, well, the idea that has been thrown out by the Big Ten, and where this was reported by Pete Thamel of ESPN. He put in his initial tweet, the first tweet in a thread, that this is just an idea. But as I told my wife, I want to relay something that came up in a conversation that her and I had, that the Big Ten is doing this on purpose. The Big Ten wouldn't be just leaking something that's just an idea if they didn't believe that it was something that you could hold on to and that you could believe in. Because if this was just an idea, they wouldn't have floated it around to people outside the Big Ten. You may introduce it to those inside your conference, but to share it with those outside of your own footprint, that don't make any sense. So yes, it is just an idea, but if this idea is one that people buy into, they'll say, oh, we are on to something. Let's push this a little bit harder. Push it harder or not, this benefits Ohio State. While I don't think it's what's best for the sport, even if you go to a 69-team format, I still think as far as Power 4 conferences plus Notre Dame being together, I still think that would be a scenario where you can go to a 12-team playoff or a 14-team playoff if that's all you're dealing with. And that would be a whole lot better than to add all these schools to this format. But I do think when you think about this format, if the Big Ten gets 7 automatic qualifiers in, they're going to be in the playoff every single year, which is a massive, massive benefit. Now, I think while it helps recruiting, you would have to win multiple playoff games to solidify yourself as one of those big boy, big dog schools. So someone can say, well, if you saying you're gonna be in the playoff every year, well, Boise State might say the same thing, and Tulane might say the same thing, and so saying you're a playoff team every year doesn't hold as much weight as it does in a 12-team or a 16-team format. But for the Buckeyes, if you get in the playoff, let's say the group is just 24, I'm here for it. Now, here's the thing about the 2014 playoff. Let's just say the Big Ten decides to just go with push hard on the 2014 format. If you just go with the auto bids that the Big Ten proposed in this idea, 7-7 for the Big Ten and 8 in SEC. That's 14. 5-5 for the ACC and Big 12. That is 10. That's 24. If they were to come out here and say, it'd be so bold to say 2014 format and only schools in the power conferences can be inside this playoff format, that kicks Notre Dame out, which I don't think you want to do, because outside of Ohio State, nobody in the conference has a brand like Notre Dame. Oregon fans won't like that. Cool, I don't care. Trojan fans won't like that. Sorry, Southern California. USC is not there either. Nobody in the Big Ten has a Michigan. Y'all about to lose $30 million. Sorry. Nobody in the Big Ten has a brand like Notre Dame. So if you want to be so bold to say, no, Notre Dame, you're out. But if you want to push them to join the conference, they might be going the route of the ACC over the Big Ten. Because if my memory serves me correctly, I'm pretty sure one of those Michigan schools has blocked Notre Dame from joining the conference in the past. Now, that's the past. This is the present. So lock and change. But I don't know if Michigan or Michigan State wants the Fighting Irish inside the Big Ten. Because if you want to think them old school battles between those schools were fierce, wait till they're battling to have a shot to win a Big Ten title. That would be insane. So this does benefit Ohio State. Anytime you get a format that allows a conference like the Big Ten to have 4 automatic qualifiers into a playoff format, pencil it in. Buckeyes in any given year are going to be there. No, they have not finished in the top 4 every single year. They've been a school in the conference. However, those days might be gone. Just to be honest with you, that could be an elitist statement. But in any given year, you expect Ohio State to be no less than 4th. And even Ohio State finishing 4th last year, that was so odd. Oregon and Michigan, those 2 losses, while Ohio State beat Penn State and Ohio State beat Indiana, those 2 schools, Indiana and Penn State, were ahead of Ohio State in the final Big Ten standings. It's weird to swallow that pill, but that is where things are. I don't like a 2014 or 2018 format with the amount of FBS schools in the country. While there are a lot of schools in the country at this level, they're not. All of them are not playing the same game. If you're going to put the elite of the elite in a playoff, cool. I still would say a 24 2018 format would be way too much. But that's just me. What say you? Are you on board with this idea of a format? Or do you think it's a right move for the sport? Thank you all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes, for making this bonus episode a part of your day. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317 at gmail.com. It has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Monday. We'll see you next time.